just trying to get a few things cleaned up.
That's why we've got so many public
Yep,
candidates today.
yep, everybody's all mad. Yep.
It is 9 o'clock. I'll call the Land Use and Information Committee meeting for May 2nd, 2023 into order. Notice has been posted in accordance with Wisconsin statute 19.84 open meeting law. At this time, are there any public comments? No public comments, okay. Go on. Approval of the agenda order.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Ms. Anderson.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Anderson will not be here today either. Approval of the minutes for the April 4th, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second with a minor correction. On the next track. One, we have testimony by the owners of the Cabin Nails. Place as a hair salon and it's actually a nail salon. Just want to correct it, make it right. And I think that was the only thing I noticed.
Any other comments on the minutes? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public hearing, Jason, would you please read the.
Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 9 a.m. at the Burnett County Government Center, room 165, Town of Meenen, Severn, Wisconsin, regarding the following. Burnett County Land Use Shoreline Protection Ordinances. Number 1, conditional use permit CUP 2302 Seaman. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Meenen, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Quinn and Lisa Seaman have made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances to allow chickens in a residential district located at 8060 County Road D in the RR3 zoning district, Lot 1, CSM Volume 16, page 35 in the southeast quarter, the southwest quarter, section 19, town 39 north, range B, range 16 west.
Right into the first conditional use permit, CUP 2302 Seaman, chickens in residential district. Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Please come up and state your name and
Here,
what's your plan to have?
yes, my name's Quinn Seaman and my wife and I, we actually have chickens. We didn't know we needed a conditional use permit, and so going through the process of getting some building permits, we found out that we needed to have a permit for chickens. So we talked to the neighbors. I know letters were sent to the neighbors. The only response we got was, "Can we have some chickens, please?" And or eggs. And then went to Meenen, to the township, got their blessing, and so just here to get the permit for our chickens. If you need any more particulars, I'm happy to give them.
Maybe having questions.
One question, are your in production is the goal or meat chickens or both?
At this point, it's eggs, but it's evolved since so what happened was my wife works at the school in Siren, and a gentleman that had chickens retired two years ago in October. And then at the beginning of November, he had a really bad stroke. And so we ended up inheriting these chickens. I cared for him at his place for a while. I had no idea that I needed a permit to have chickens where we are. We have 10 acres out in the woods. So I cared for him at his place and nobody stepped forward to take care of them. So I built a coop and brought them to our house. And so at that point, it was just to take care of those chickens and have eggs, but it's evolved. Now we have eggs that lay different colors, or hens that lay different colored eggs and things like that, because my wife is very interested in this stuff. So I could see that we might go to production for slaughter, but it would just be a couple.
That's
You know,
okay.
it's eggs.
The reason I asked was that hens don't crow, and the only real concern you ever get of chickens is a bunch of roosters crowing.
Yeah.
which Wouldn't bother most people, but sometimes some people don't like to get crowed awake in the morning, you know.
Well, yeah, they tend to crow whenever they want to, you know, they do most of their crowing in the morning. Yes, and so we have neighbors that are, oh, I don't wanna say close, but fairly close in one direction and they're, you know, they're fine. I don't think they get hit. And our other neighbor, he's the one that wants the chickens. So, yeah, it would be for hens. And then I understand that if you do raise them for meat, I think before they get to the age of crowing, they're already in the frying pan.
It's kind of kidding, but that they're already make them into fryers before they ever get to crowing much anyway.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, yeah.
So, no, I don't think with 10 acres, that it wouldn't be a big issue, you know, but we have had people on just relatively small lots. It's part of the
Oh,
reason
yeah.
in the zoning district you're in.
Yeah,
We do have the conditional use permit, and some of that is to manage so that somebody doesn't have a big pile of chicken manure just sitting there, you know, but you've got enough room to disperse it.
yeah, and I would compost most of it, but I understand that was a concern. And so, you know, right now I have a pile from over the winter, but then I'll compost it or spread it or
I
whatever.
think you just continue to follow the best management practices like that, not let it get out of hand. Again,
Right,
being on 10 acres, you know, it gives you more room, but if you were on an acre and a half, the neighbors were close, this stuff can be more.
yes, yes.
That's why we have the process, right? But I think, yeah, I don't see an issue with prohibiting you from having roosters on 10 acres because you're pretty far from anybody and
Yeah,
but we have done that in other places.
oh,
We
yeah,
have seen that need. Just for a quick story and I think Tanya's comment about me taking a long time, sometimes accurate. One guy couldn't have chickens, he said, okay, then so we got guineas instead, because it was
yeah,
feuding with a neighbor, and guineas are way noisier than chickens.
they are really noisy, yeah.
So if you're taking chickens here, you're fine.
Mr. Chairman, as long as we have him up here yet, where did where did number 30 come from?
Oh, I think that was what you asked for.
Well,
right?
it was, I've never done a conditional use permit before.
Yeah,
So I didn't know how much information to give.
yeah.
I'm wishing I would have had a higher number now because
Well, I
I
was just
feel-
wondering, can we possibly think about striking that 30 in
Or make
no
a,
more than 30?
well, that's in the application, it said between 10 and 30 is what he
that's what we
wrote.
were thinking.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, we could possibly strike that,
Or we could raise the number of
raise the number.
yeah.
We
for
can do that.
something that,
I mean, I don't think you want to go to 3,000 or something, but you could maybe, you know,
Some reasonable.
50 or whatever.
Wants to go to a certain amount, I don't know what it would be. Dave Ferris's comments about,
yeah, but I don't even know what is an animal. I could look up a chicken, but you know,
It's-
one animal unit's a Holstein cow, so it's yes.
Well,
one animal
an
unit.
animal unit.
Yeah.
And an animal unit is an agricultural measure of manure mostly,
Okay,
so.
sure, the impact, yeah.
You know, a one, like a yearling Holstein steer is a cow, how much manure will it produce or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's,
Couple hundred
chickens, you're talking literally hundreds to get to.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're probably, if we could raise that to 50, for example, I think wouldn't matter,
I think it would be reasonable for,
but a better number.
That's a much better number. After I talked to my wife, she was like, you said 30. And again, I just wanted to give you guys the idea of the scope of what we're doing.
yeah.
And you might have thought 30 was a really good idea, but you didn't. That's that number.
That's why I said things are evolving. I needed to talk to my wife first. She's got big
I
plans.
think.
Inherited.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean that you have to have 50,
right, up to.
but at least you would have that
So
option.
what happens?
I
too,
appreciate that.
cycle it up and down, you know, too, especially if you have some sitting and hatching, you could all of a sudden be up to your eyeballs of chickens.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to keep all, of them, you know.
All right.
Looks like 100 layers is one animal unit.
Yeah, that makes sense, but 50 would still be a half an animal. unit.
Yeah.
So I would think that would be in reason.
any other questions from the committee for the applicant? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Seems how there's no one here. No one online? No one online. No one online.
My wife wanted to be, but she's at work and I told her I have the link written down and I read it off to her. And she's really busy, so she didn't have time or she'd be watching. So you have one.
I do have one number on it.
I told her, just go to the government website and they'll, because I found it. She's way more techy than I am. I'm not sure why she couldn't find it.
Since we have no public comments, we did get a notice from Town of Meehan.
Yep,
So
Yep.
we did get a notice from Mr. Ferris.
yep.
We had no problem with it.
Correct.
Well, the public hearing at this time then. Is there anyone that wishes to make a motion?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we approve conditional use permit number cup 23-02. And that would include the staff recommendations. We would change the number in the staff recommendations, so it would read not to exceed 50 chickens at any time, but everything else in the staff recommendations would be left alone as written.
Have a motion. We have a second. Second. Randy. Student Houses CUP will have a roll call. Mr. Sheminski. Yes. Mr. Blomberg.
Yes.
Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson is absent. Mr. Payton.
Yes.
Mr. Conroy.
Yes.
Mr. Bickford, yes. It has been approved, so you can have up to 50.
Thank you. Appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All we have for public hearings today.
As I had mentioned, I think previously, I lived in Dallas, Texas, in a very nice neighborhood. Stanley Marcus lived in that neighborhood. And people were very fond of having chickens. And I would hear roosters crowing, especially early in the morning. And yeah, I know it's not for everybody, but I thought it was kind of nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind either, but you know, so it's, as we well know, sometimes people find things to pick at each other over, and so good to have it covered, right?
So I think when we get to revising chapter 30, we'll probably look at doing something with chickens. Allow it, you know, and not, I guess I won't talk, I'll just mention a few points here. You know, we should probably look at maybe, you know, minimum, if they have so many acres, they won't need a CUP as long as they're not on I know we've had a few on lakes where the lake association isn't very fond. I think Bonner, maybe the lake association or town of Jackson was not in favor of that one on the kind of the southwest side there. He wanted ducks and chickens.
Yeah, water quality issues.
Yeah, so we'd probably have to look at still doing CUPs if they're a riparian owner or on a certain size lot or something.
You know, and I honestly could see that with ducks more than chickens, in that the ducks get out and roam the lake, and then we're foraging, and then there's some swimmers itch things that nematodes through ducks can contribute to, you know. I don't know that, it take an awful lot of them to do that, but I think I see the point more on ducks and geese than I do on chickens, but
On chicken,
in general,
well, and the noise travels across the lake pretty much too, so depending.
Yeah.
You know, it,
there's that
yeah,
too.
it can amplify.
Yeah,
What we did, just for whatever it's worth, in Washburn County, this was really popular for a while too. And we had a similar thing. We established a policy that if it was 10 chickens or less, we did not require a conditional use permit. It was just something we were gonna say, you know, kids would get chickens or ducklings for Easter and be raised, and they'd have 3 or 4, you know.
yeah, little
We weren't
4-H
gonna
projects or
regulate
something.
that, you know. We didn't amend the ordinance even, we just said policy, we got other things to do. We're not dealing with that, but we will, if you want to get serious about raising them and
Mhm.
that kind of thing, we're going to require a permit after a certain cap.
So yeah, we'll have to look at that sometime when we get to revising chapter 30. So,
Next. Approved geographic names for 8 water bodies located in Burnett County.
Okay, so like I kind of mentioned a little bit before the meeting, this came about from me, I think reviewing a plat book or something compared to what the DNR had on their website for lake names. And I found, I think, there must have been 8 of them here where I'm like, they didn't have names. We tried to get the DNR just to add it on their end and they wouldn't do it unless you go, apparently this is how you change lake names or modify water body names. You go through this whole official process of the Geographic Name Council and all that stuff. So,
And it's probably a good thing that they do have that protocol so that they don't just willy-nilly.
yeah, or do you name it some offensive name or something that, you know, that people have probably tried to do or something in the past, so.
I don't know the story to accurately represent it, I think, but you know, there's some lakes, when we have a variance ending on called Meyer. But there was, for the county map, for some reason, there was did not have the names of lakes be people's names, last names, but instead, so they, on the county map, it showed that Burnett, Meyer, and Lang Lake were upper, middle, and lower Loon. And we had another Loon, it was all part of the Loon Creek watershed. But that was brought to my attention by one of my cousins who didn't like the USGS map with Lang, Meyer, and Burnett. Official name, just the county map, you know. I said, Lang, by the way, is my great grandfather, right? So he too said, no, that should be nothing wrong with a historical name of the first settler. Right?
Exactly.
He was right. For that, the same thing. Meyer was the same thing.
Yeah.
So we went back years ago and changed that back. That's why we show those in parentheses.
Okay, yeah.
Because the county map, and I don't know if we went through the same process as this. I suspect it was just county's initiative.
Mhm.
The name like said DNR named something else.
Yeah.
Right? And because I would assume what's on the USGS map, if it's named, is what DNR would have been using as well.
Yeah, you'd think so,
We'll know that.
but you don't know how different agencies sometimes don't coordinate too well.
Exactly. So anyway, that was why we did that. That happened, I noticed with the variance request we got
Mhm.
coming up,
Yep.
tripped my memory of that pertaining to this stuff.
Is there any stipulations on how large body water has to be?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, there's no such thing as a water body too small to be a lake in Wisconsin by under the law, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking. The town of Roseville, down Timberland Hills, there. A lot of little
Ponds or whatever you wanna
Frog
call
ponds.
them, yeah.
Well, when you look at the water resources inventory, there's all kinds of unnamed water bodies that are listed that are little spring ponds that
Yep.
headwaters of creeks and things.
So basically, these are the 8 kind of main ones that I found, which I can't believe one of them is Black Brook Flowage. I mean, that's,
Yeah, that. That's what the. I think there was a sign up there even.
that's what I say. I think some of these have DNR names on them, but they don't technically recognize them. So one of them is, Black Brook Flowage. The other next one is Duck Lake. That's up in, town of Webb Lake. Another one
Goose Lake.
is Goose Lake.
Goose Lake is, that's a. I think with some state-owned little wildlife area.
Yes, yep,
I'm surprised that wasn't officially named for.
yep. Let's see here, next one. Colfock Lake, I believe, if I'm pronouncing it right. That's, yeah, about 21 acre lake. Up in the town of Scott. Next one, Feinstead Flowage.
How do you pronounce that?
I don't know for sure. Don't take my pronunciation correctly.
Kylingstead?
Killingstead.
Killingstead.
Billingstead, okay.
Sounds Swedish.
And that one is West Marshland, so that would kind of fit Swedish, it's kind of over that direction, yep.
That's the other complex.
Yep.
And Beaver Lake. That one is down in the town of Roosevelt. And Dilly's Lake,
East side, right, whatever it's Washington.
yeah, right on the county line is that one. Dilly's Lake, that's up in the town of Webb Lake.
That's just,
I think you got them all.
And Paulson Lake.
Not Dilly, would that have been named after someone?
I'm guessing probably.
It doesn't have anything to do with Dairy Queen, I presume.
really bar involved.
Give it late.
So yeah, this is, I guess, the official process. So we brought it to this committee.
Also like that would be.
Yeah. So if this committee approves them, then they would go to county board later on in May for official approval.
Is that substantial of a process?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve. Agenda number 7. Take it to the county board for approval.
I'll
Motion by
second,
Mr.
I'll
Patton.
second the motion to approve those as recommendation. Made,
Second.
I did,
Oh, second by Mr.
Jim
Conroy.
made the motion and I seconded it.
Roll call vote. Mr. Shinsky. Yes. Mr. Blomberg.
Yes.
Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson's absent. Mr. Payton.
Yes,
Mr. Conroy.
Yes,
Mr. Bickford, yes. You can now have 8 more lakes in the county.
yep. We're still beating Minnesota. Add a few more to it.
What is it, 15,000 in
I
Wisconsin?
think that's about it, yeah.
That's why I was wondering how there was criteria and how large it could be.
Yeah, I don't,
I noticed in Minnesota regulations, fish and game stuff, they did mention ponds, and like, we don't tend to. We call them water bodies and there's no minimum size, defined bed and banks. Navigable in fact on a recurring basis, case law in Wisconsin. Includes stuff that maybe Minnesota doesn't think is a lake, I don't.
yeah.
Just an observation.
Next,
Let's see here.
human services.
So the reports are in the packet there. Staff reports are in there as well. Budget, we're a little bit less this year to date on revenue. Our permits are down a little bit. Nothing, to be concerned about at this point in time, but last week the phone was ringing like crazy and customers coming to the counter all the time, so.
I kind of think that the extended winter has a little to do with it.
Yeah.
People just
Yeah.
Not being able to get stuff started.
Yep, people can't even get into their properties, because there's so much snow this year.
Road bans are on yet.
Yep, those came off on Monday, the road bans, yep.
Yesterday.
Yep, yeah, yesterday that was, yep. Yeah, so I don't, see any major slowdown or anything at this point in time,
So
so.
we have to have a recommendation to admin for replacing service.
Or is she just gonna be folded? Folding those
That
duties?
position transferred. So the real property lister, which used to always be in my department, is now part of the treasurer's department.
Oh,
She took that position with her.
yeah, it mentions that in the miscellaneous items, they're number 3.
Yep.
Um,
So I don't have to fill that position. Now she has to fill it because it's part of her department, one less headache and thing I gotta deal with, but.
Unless she is able to determine that her current staff can handle those duties, is that a
No, that-
possibility or is that too
Well,
much?
that's what, they are not, refilling, who's the position over to the left over there? What was her name?
Best.
Beth's position. They're not refilling that position. but they're refilling the real property lister position. So there would be some savings to the county. Because that one position isn't being refilled.
The real property used to be in treasures.
Yes, the real property lister used to be in the treasurer's office prior to me even being here. So I think like 25 years ago, it got moved. Yep, Roxy got moved to the land info department.
Land information,
Yep,
right, when Kathy was still.
yep,
Roxanne, was it more?
yep, Roxanne Moore, yep. So she was, so yeah, about 20 some years ago, it got moved to land info, and then land info got merged into land services.
We don't need to make a recommendation.
No, we don't have to. I think admin and you guys probably a county board already approved that when she got appointed to be treasurer.
We
So,
didn't directly improve it, we certainly
yeah,
created the need to
yeah.
do it that way.
So yeah, I think that move is essentially eliminating another position, I believe. So,
But it's a kind of a domino effect, it eliminated a lower lead
Yes.
position.
Yep.
And then creates the,
mhm.
puts it in a reasonable or rational place for that.
Yeah, and I think in Wisconsin, the real property lister is either in the treasurer's office or mixed with land info. I think they can go in either one. It's not, if you were putting it in HHS or something, that would be weird, but it fits either department is how counties do it in Wisconsin pretty much. So,
So like for our land information council meetings, we will still have a person other than the treasurer designated as the real property.
Yes.
lister.
yep,
That'll be good for that.
yep. Yep. What else is in there? Website statistics are in there, about 275 users or so per weekday, 75 per day on the weekends. I put what city they were coming from. Yeah, nothing else really too exciting in there. Just plugging away, busy right now with permits and everything. So,
It's to be expected, right?
yep. Yep. Yeah, sewer permits are down, sanitaries are down again this year so far. Yeah, I don't know.
Again, so it's even Wolfson couldn't get out and do stuff early with the weather conditions, and some of that was guys could do soil work. Once the weather started to lift,
Yeah.
it didn't.
Yep. And I mean, when I talk to the builders, they say they're still booked out into 24 yet,
Yeah.
so, and
Well, to give you an example, we let it reside our house a year out,
mhm,
so. I thought maybe end of summer, right? But, well, let's see, but they're putting on more help if they can,
mhm.
and maybe it might move up a little bit. Surprised me that took that, it's gonna take that long. They got some woodpecker holes to patch and stuff that better get at.
Yeah, and I think, the feds are probably, it sounds like gonna stop raising interest rates or only go up just a little bit more, cause I think that's, been slowing down things too, cause recordings are down. As well for real estate transactions and mortgages, sure, are down too with the higher rates, so.
And that's helped lead to bank collapses and
Mhm.
such.
So,
I do have a question on, the permits issued.
yes,
Lots of short-term rentals.
Yes.
And did anything change? Just more being added, requirements have changed? Or
I-
you're seeing a lot more that are registering?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. More people may be complaining about them, so then we look at them a little bit more. And as more people are aware of it, more are trying to get permits. Supposedly, we hear numbers that there's about 200 of them roughly in the county. So what do we have? 60 of them, or what was the number there?
We've got 44.
44 so far. Yep,
And do they apply each year?
yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a yearly license, so every year they have to reapply.
Renewals,
Yep, renew it.
essentially.
And what exactly is the process? I just know, Burnett County Tourism Coalition has been, that's aside from, what we do here, but, they're trying to do some sort of short-term rental,
They're
whatever.
trying to get a room tax kind of in place, yep.
And so what does this permitting entail? I mean, is there any enforcement or basically it's just documentation that it exists?
Oh, the main thing that we are looking at for the county permit is sewer size, to make sure the sewer is sized appropriately for the number of guests they're trying to rent to. We have some other requirements, that they're not parking on the roads, that they have proper garbage service, it's just. And, just basically, we're kind of going through that checklist with them, but the sewer is the big one that we're kind of focusing on. And then the state, they have to get a state license as well. And the state really focuses on smoke, CO detectors. The state requires a water test to make sure there's no bacteria or whatever in the well water. So they're have to get that permit as well. And then I believe the Tourism Coalition is trying to get like a room tax or something in place to collect some of the revenue.
And they were gonna try to get that valuation for the towns that would buy into it to see how many they had.
Yep,
And then the towns would get some revenue out of that.
yep. It's 70-30 split, I think is how it works. 70 has to be spent on tourism related activities. 30 then can essentially be whatever they want to spend it on. So that's where you could maybe get more police service or
That
fix.
was kind of
put
the
it in
carrot on the
roads.
stick to get the towns to adopt the ordinances.
Yep,
But, we've talked about this.
Yep.
Natural Resources Committee,
okay.
tourism, a lot, which is that it's so difficult to enforce. We've tried, sort of like people would be trying to be cryptic about where their rental was, and then we would track it down by looking at landmarks and clues in their
Photos.
copy about the
Yep.
promotion, and we found a lot of them, and they thought they were going to be covert,
Yep,
but then they still would be, well, it's just my brother and my cousin,
yep,
well related.
yep.
So anyway,
What comes first, the state license or the county?
State one. We require them to have a state license before we'll issue our county one. Yep.
This is a yearly permit, and then
Yes.
how much does that cost them?
So the first year, so if it's their initial license, it is $300 the first time. And then the renewal is $150.
What's the state license?
I think about $150, $200 for the first time and then $100 or something for renewal. Yeah,
it's a lot more evaluation to see if they meet the criteria than once you know they do.
yeah,
It's just to make sure that it's all maintained properly and
yeah.
nothing's changed.
So the main thing we do is we kind of watch their website too, because, if it's got a sewer for 6 people in their online advertising says it sleeps 20, we're gonna say, hey, knock it off, get your advertising to be appropriate size.
Found some unknown about bunkhouses and garages on it.
Yep, you find some of those sleeping in above the garage. Well, no, you don't have a permit for that to be sleeping quarters, so. Find a few of those things, yeah, as we're going through them.
One thing I've noticed on things that we get on the internet is about how to do policies online. And I think we're in the process of doing that for like permits, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have PDF form that you can, print off. We don't have a fillable form yet online. We're talking about trying to get something like that. But yeah, we're not at that point in time yet. And we're trying to, Nate, wants us to get an online payment thing too set up or a way to take credit cards. I still don't know how we do that though, because we don't process the payment until we approve the permit. So if they apply for, a garage and they give us a check or a credit card, do we charge the card? And then if we go, well, you can't meet the setbacks, we're not gonna approve your garage. We always, give them their check or cash back as how, so now do we have to refund their credit card? And is there convenience fees then each time that we're doing that then the county's out money? Because if we're not getting a permit fee, you know,
I mean, you don't wanna make it, it's an application fee, but if some little tiny thing is wrong, you can't do it, then we're gonna keep the money anyway.
well, and that's how I think some counties do it, which that would agitate me if, oh, here's $200 and we're gonna keep it and you can't do your project, have a nice day. I mean, that makes government, you know,
I completely agree. That's-
really look bad that way, so.
Rarely had to do that. Over the years, for some kind of a.
I mean, most things you can get them. I mean, we do have a hold pile, you know, it's probably 3 inches thick from the last year or so of like, hey, we can't approve this because of this or that reason, and
Mhm.
those people drop off the face of the earth and eventually
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
just,
But then
Yeah.
you get the money back, which I think rarely is.
yeah.
In both, when I worked in Washington and Burnett.
Yep.
It's pretty rare.
Mhm.
Usually, you don't ever get to the point where you cash their check or
Yep.
took cash. You don't see much cash anymore, but we used to see a lot of cash. The zoning office had a box under the counter full of money sometimes this time of year, make a deposit every 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, we have, yeah, I probably shouldn't say too much, but we've probably got, you know, 5-10,000 and, well, probably 5,000 in cash, probably in our office. Cause we don't take credit cards, so a lot of people don't have checks anymore. you know, so they're
Probably more than I
actually-
thought. I used to think it was odd people used cash instead of checks.
Yeah, now it's going back
I
the
don't
other way.
understand why.
Well, it's nice that you're right next door to the sheriff's department.
Yes, I think we're safe, so. They'd have to jump the counter and get across past one staff before they could get to it, so.
We're not gonna talk about it, you know. Things that are advertising that we can help you do this.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know,
But I know we've talked in the past about streamlining
mhm,
stuff.
yeah. I mean. Our permitting, in my personal opinion, our permitting process isn't that rigorous. I mean, it's not like, you know, in the. Bigger metro areas, to build a house, you have to hire an engineer practically to do your drainage on your lot and everything else, so. I mean, ours is still pretty informal. Pretty low key, we still let the homeowner draw a sketch, and as long as it's not on a napkin, we're usually pretty much gonna take it, so.
What's the matter with a napkin?
One of the real
It
benefits.
doesn't
we
scan
have,
very good,
when people are sort of even semi-computer literate,
you know,
you go on a county website and have stuff that would have cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars 20 years ago.
you know.
Topography's there,
Mhm.
you know, imagery, turn off some layers you don't need and work on it, fill in a polygon kind of thing, show where your, for
Mhm.
example, we helped a guy design the parking lot he needs. When we were meeting with him on cleaning up some stuff the other day. Right while we were there, he knows
Mhm.
exactly how to do it now. you know,
Yep.
and Probably will, that's pretty easy to do a plot plan now, if you're able to do that. We still get the cocktail napkin crayon versions, but not that much.
Yes, it's getting better.
So we see that some people that complain about a CUP,
Mhm.
business scale, business. This, and that.
Yeah. So future agenda items, I think there's 8 public hearings next month. So. Be a 8. Yeah,
Pack a lunch.
I mean, most of them are pretty simple. I mean, so it's not like knock on wood, I don't think there's any that are gonna fill the room with, 50 people or something opposed to it. But
None of the Jerry Springer type.
no, I don't think so. So. Shouldn't be as bad as it might seem. Yeah, but even that one. Didn't rile up a whole, when they even did the Oakland.
Doesn't involve a lot of people. It's just-
Yeah, I mean, he's his own neighbor, his own adjoiner around his whole thing, so.
It's just a case of contention over what they can do.
Yeah.
That's that one. So, a couple of things that came into, I mean, not we're gonna decide anything, but. When we had that track permit last time where it was required a finding that. It was enough like something that could be approved in A2. In order to proceed, because it's not a listed item. It occurred to me that we're putting a lot on Jason to sort sheep from goats and some of those things. And maybe we want to put on an agenda item to discuss in the future, ought we do something short of a public hearing to decide if we're going to accept that application? Because it charges the committee to do it, not the administrator to do that. And in the good old days of pre-Act 67, when people didn't contest anything we did because they promised to follow some conditions they offered, that was okay because they took no for an answer. But now we don't see that as much. And I'm just throwing it out there as if we should look at that idea and perhaps modify how we handle that rare occasion when it isn't. You know, the basic Euclidean zoning model is it lists what you can do, and if it doesn't list it, you can't do it.
Yep.
That was why conditional uses, so to speak, or special exceptions were provided to provide some flexibility, but
Yeah, because our ordinance right now says, you know, you can apply for a CUP for a bar, a restaurant, you know, list. And it says, you know, recreational items, and it says, and any other items in the opinion of the Land Use and Information Committee that may fit or be like or applicable or something. So I can't remember the exact verbiage.
similar, some.
Yeah, so it basically, when I look at that, I'm like, well, heck, that pretty much opens it where they can almost apply for essentially anything. Because it's really up to you guys to think, is it close enough?
That language says, but in the opinion of the committee.
Yes.
The administrator.
Yep.
Well, and my point simply is then we say, well, you can't have that. It's not even close, and no,
Mhm.
then it's Jason's fault because he let him apply, right? Well, which is what he gets the big bucks for. We all know that.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
But we setting that aside, though, it charges the committee, so we, at a minimum, would need to make a finding first. That this is appropriate to even proceed with, I think, we could make that argument. And ought we to make it not as a public hearing, but as a business item on a meeting? Should we accept this application because this doesn't fit? You know, that, and I'm just saying, I'm not asking for anything more than just think about that. You know, and then maybe we'll bring it up in the future and see if we want to modify it or not, but I don't think it's something we try to run through with a, you know, amendment necessarily, just how do we do it? You know?
It's another good thing to put on our chapter 30 update when we get to chickens and all the other things we have to look at. So
Right.
hopefully this winter.
Yeah,
Because we probably have some egg changes that might be coming through, but I don't think we want to open it up to everything because that just,
No.
slows down the whole
those will be-
process.
As we work on generating the updates that were recommended to LSLS, and we've got staff working on that. There's some zoning stuff that needs to accompany it. And we already wrote that once.
Yep.
Took it to county board almost, and then pulled it because of a concern about if it would hold up. Now we're pretty confident it will, so. That was the one thing, and then one last thing that I've been seeing is, I don't know if we're gonna have a run on lake districts. But this falls into land information. Natural resources is requiring, you know, the stuff we need under the statute, maps and stuff. I did Eagle Lake, truthfully, some of it, they did it, they filled it out, I created the map and the report and the list of what I think constitutes a legal description. But then Jason talked with them about Round Lake. And they're working on Round Lake. But that's a lot more complicated than Eagle Lake. And we have to then reports to the Department of Revenue and DNR with some information, and I'm wondering if we should figure out a way to assess some of the costs that may fall to your department to create this stuff. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, that we don't have them very often. But yeah, there seems to be two of them going on kind of right now at the same time.
Right? Did you ever get a chance to take a look at Eagle Lake? I asked Wanda to send it, but I don't know.
I don't think she sent it to me.
I'll have to ask her again. I just sent an email. And
Yeah,
I could show you, we're gonna have some time after this, I could spend a couple of minutes. But what I did was use the mapping features to use the fill in polygon. Seems to me that makes a pretty good detailed map with the boundary clearly understood. Then you need a description of the district. And you and I's first opinion would mean we need to describe a meets and bounds or survey quality description of the entire district. But I'm wondering if, like in Eagle Lake, all in one section. So all these parcels in section 34, T41 North Range 15, that's a PIN number, broke down legal description, who owns it.
mhm.
That really ought to constitute a legal
I
description
think that,
for the purpose of this.
yeah, I think that's pretty clear. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's,
What gets complicated is you have Round, or Clam Lake where, you have 150 parcels.
multiple sections involved.
Yeah,
And what the Round Lake guy is doing, following my format that I invented for Eagle Lake, is just in this section, these parcels, PIN number, legal description, slot, whatever, CSM volume page.
Yeah.
Or plat or whatever. And let's do that for each section that Round Lake is in. And then the consolidated 3 pages or whatever would be the legal description. It seems to me that should satisfy the Department of Revenue and DNR would ever want.
I would think so, but I don't know. Yeah, since we don't do this enough.
If they say, no, we need you to have a line that you described, and the whole Clam Lake one has got meets and bounds descriptions that practically involve hop, skip, and a jump to the mailbox.
Yeah, one of them says like Mr. Smith's to Mr. Smith's driveway and then this way and that way and. So you gotta figure out where that was in 1950. Where did Mr. Smith own and where was his driveway, so.
That's like retracing an old,
Yeah.
French land grant description and surveying, which you sometimes have to do, but this is. I just, again, just something, we got time today, it's something that's come up and we should maybe think about what we should, if we're gonna need to do this a lot. It could fall to, somebody may need to hire land services to provide them data and we do that sometimes anyway, and we can probably figure out what to charge.
And it depends on, I think, if the DNR and Department of Revenue would accept essentially a list of parcels, that doesn't seem too
That's not
difficult.
burdensome, no.
Yeah,
Now, the Round Lake you're referring to, is that the one in the town of Trade Lake?
Yes. And it's not round either.
No, but it's fairly good sized.
I'm teasing, but its shape is not round, is easy to make that polygon, it's not round.
Sure.
Anyway, that's all I had, is a couple of things that have been coming up and have a moment to look at.
Question on last month. CUP, they still have 30 days to appeal.
yeah, because I don't write or send the letter until you guys approve the minutes.
Oh,
Because I don't want to,
so now they'll actually have 60 days.
yeah, so now I'll get a letter sent out to all of those here, hopefully this week, and then that starts their 30-day clock.
Oh, it's only 30 days.
Yeah, 30 days from when the decision is essentially written. That starts their clock.
It's the same with the DOA, when
Yep.
it's filed with the board, is you're not at the night they make the decision.
Yep,
Typically, it's the next meeting or
yep.
somewhere between a couple of weeks and a month.
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, since we got the requests from the attorneys.
Yeah, since we got all the requests for all the emails and stuff, yeah, and I haven't gotten back to them. I mean, we've got IT's gathered it all. I have to go through all the emails to make sure. Because how we pretty much do it is IT, we give them, hey, search Kramer and, give them these keywords to search and they pull everything out. But let's say HHS was working with a client that had the same last name Kramer, but it was a different person. And there was some case that can't be public, it's child protection or something. So basically IT gives us this giant list, here's all these emails, and somebody has to essentially go through them all to make sure there's none in there that you can't distribute. So that's the process I have to do right now, is we got the list from IT and I gotta go through and make sure there's nothing in there that can't be distributed. But yeah, so that was an open record request, and then, I don't know if they're gonna appeal the decision or not.
That would go to Board of Adjustment.
Well, they could go to Board of Adjustment, or they can skip Board of Adjustment if they want. They can go straight to circuit court if they
Just like-
want to.
Okay,
Yep. If they want.
It's faster and cheaper to go to the Board of Adjustment, one would expect. But-
Yes.
But that was one of the cloudy things of Act 67, is that in the case of municipalities where the Board of Adjustment here's conditional use or special exceptions, then you only can go to circuit court.
Yep.
But in our part of the state where land use committees typically do that, then the Board of Adjustment ought to be viewed as the first appellate body.
Yep.
Act 67 doesn't really say it.
Mhm.
think, I guess, go either way.
You still have not heard anything. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I think you guys all saw the judge made a ruling on the open records request thing, and then now they're now going back and forth again over that decision. So I don't think the campground decision will happen until they get that first part straightened out. So,
Reconsideration request.
yes,
Who knows how long that'll take.
yeah. So I tell anybody, once you go to court, man, things just slow right down. Nothing happens fast. So,
Although we do think that the reconsideration is a pretty weak argument.
Just a minor item for the future. Is IT aware that, at least up on the screen there, our video is reversed from reality?
don't know.
I can mention.
Okay, and I presume that what's up there is what's going out on YouTube, so it'd be kind of nice.
But if you look at the white screen on the back, then we're the right way. So you just gotta look embedded in the image, then we're flipped it back again.
Never noticed that. It's
That
interesting.
that doesn't give you really the clarity or detail.
No, and then the clock always looks odd too, because the clock is backwards.
Yeah.
Sure.
The time sometimes looks like it's you think it's 2:00.
Yeah,
Right now.
YouTube's right, though.
Oh, YouTube is right? Okay,
okay. So what's the
yeah,
deal?
This gotta be the projector.
I don't know. We'll mention it to IT though, ask if they can,
We gotta move it to the other wall.
yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out.
It's still, we're still trying to work all the bugs out of this new system yet, maybe that's part of the reason, I don't know.
Look, and then we've had presentations made though, people presenting other things in this image. It's been okay.
Yeah, it's not flipped if you broadcast something.
It's
from the-
just this, so I guess
Yeah.
we're here, so nobody should be watching it here.
Yes.
You know, well, whatever, like for the benefit of the audience or.
Yeah.
Anything else for committee?
We're good.
If not,
6,
motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Conroy. Second. Second by Mr. Andy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are adjourned. at
Sometimes they go quick, right?
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Pretty rare.
Yep, once in a while we